I'll go straight to the point. My husband and I have been married for 2 years, and we are blessed with a child. My husband comes from a large family with many brothers and sisters, and that detail is important to my story. Even before our church wedding, which took place a few months after our traditional marriage, we experienced our first major family disagreement. About 3 weeks before the wedding, my mother-in-law asked that we postpone the ceremony because the opening ceremony of her village women's dance group had been fixed on the same day. The surprising part was that she had been involved from the beginning when the wedding date was chosen, so it wasn't as though she had been left out of the planning. Almost everyone in my husband's family supported her request that we move the wedding date, while my own family strongly opposed the idea. My husband became upset and argued with both his siblings and his mother when they continued insisting that the wedding should be postponed. Throughout the disagreement, I stood my ground and I told my husband that the wedding should go ahead as planned. Both families had known the date for about 3 months, and I believed changing it at the last minute wasn't reasonable. I also reminded him that if we postponed it because of his mother's event, my own family might later have another reason to request a different date. Despite all the tension and drama, the wedding eventually held as scheduled. The experience, however, made me begin to wonder about the family I had married into. We were both from the same state, but I couldn't ignore the impression that incident left on me. Just 2 weeks after we returned from our honeymoon, everything changed. We were driving to my niece's birthday party when my husband and I had an argument. During the disagreement, he suddenly told me to get out of the car. I obeyed and stepped out. A few minutes later, he came back and begged me to come back inside, but I refused. Instead, I took a taxi to my sister's house. That night marked the beginning of a completely different chapter in my marriage. When we returned home, my husband beat me severely. It was the worst beating I had ever experienced, and what hurt even more was that he never apologized afterwards. During our courtship, we had both agreed that there would never be physical abuse or any form of domestic violence in our marriage. After that first incident, I reacted in anger and I damaged the windshield of our car. Sadly, things only became worse. Whenever we argued after that, my husband would threaten to beat me, and eventually those threats became reality. The second major incident happened when I was 6 months pregnant. Desperate for help, I called my sister, hoping that she would calm him down, but no one could stop him. Looking back now, involving his family may have been a mistake. After that assault, I reported the matter to the police. I even went to my husband's family home with a police officer. Although the officer was neither in uniform nor carrying a weapon, my husband was invited to the police station, and within 2 days, the matter was settled. Even after everything that had happened, I still apologized to my mother-in-law for bringing a police officer into her house. I had my own reasons for doing so. Not long afterwards, my sister-in-law arrived at my house one morning with another person while my husband was away. They nearly attacked me, although they pointed fingers at me, pushed me around, and confronted me inside my own home. They never actually hit me. I remained completely silent throughout the encounter, and perhaps that was what prevented the situation from becoming even worse. For a while, I convinced myself that everyone had learned their lessons and that the violence was finally over. I couldn't have been more wrong. One day, right in front of our nanny, my husband shoved me and almost beat me simply because I refused to serve him a glass of drinking water. From that point on, every disagreement came with the same threat. He would always promise to beat me. Violence became the language I heard most often in my marriage. I wouldn't pretend that I was a perfect wife. I know I have my faults, and I admit that I sometimes can be stubborn. But I also know I have good qualities. The latest incident happened after I poured him a drink while we were watching a movie together in our bedroom. This time, I tried not to react immediately. However, what hurt me even more than the beating itself was his attitude afterwards. He openly boasted that he could beat me and that nothing would happen to him, and also warned me to stop associating with certain people. For 3 days, I endured his behavior while hoping things would improve. Eventually, I decided to apologize to him, but he refused to listen to anything I had to say. That rejection pushed me into making a decision that I know many people would judge me for. I went out and hired two muscular men from the street. Late that night, around 11 p.m., I tricked my husband into coming outside. When he came out, I pointed him out to the two men I had hired. To my surprise, the two men never laid a finger on him. Instead, my husband began shouting loudly in the middle of the street, attracting the attention of people nearby. As had become his usual response whenever we argued, he started beating me again right there on the busy street at 11 p.m. When the assault became too much for me to bear, I reacted by smashing the window of my own car. I had driven it that night because his own vehicle was with one of his siblings for the weekend, as was often the case. After everything that happened, he collected the car keys and returned home, leaving me behind. I went to the police station. My intention wasn't necessarily to have him arrested, but to have the officers accompany me back home. What happened next completely caught me off guard. When we arrived, my husband refused to open the door for either me or the police officers. What hurt me the most was that he told them he claimed that because he had paid my bride price, he had the right to beat me whenever he wanted and could even kill me if he chose to. Saying that he was drunk and unwilling to cooperate, the officers advised me not to spend the night in the house for my own safety. That night, I slept at the police station while my sister took care of our baby. Throughout the entire night, my husband never called to check on me. Eventually, police served him with a formal notice. When he heard about it, he contacted my sister and warned them that if he responded to the police invitation, our marriage would be over. One of my sisters begged me to withdraw the complaint, but by then, I had already made up my mind. On the day he appeared at the police station, all of his siblings also came. As usual, he had informed them about everything happening between us. None of them spoke to me. Then, something unexpected happened. One of my sisters-in-law suddenly tried to attack me right there inside the police station. Her own husband pleaded with her to stop, but she refused to listen. This was already the third time she had attempted to assault me. Fortunately, my own sister was there with me that day. She calmly begged my sister-in-law to let the matter go, but she refused. She even pushed her own husband aside as she continued trying to get to me. At that point, my sister stepped in to stop her, and the situation quickly turned into a physical fight. To be honest, I felt relieved because my sister was much stronger than I was and finally stood up to someone who had repeatedly tried to intimidate me. The confrontation spilled out onto the street. By then, my husband had already gone home. As a result of the fight, both my sister and my sister-in-law were arrested and detained for about an hour. Before the incident ended, my sister-in-law swore that she would make sure I was thrown out of my marriage. She even challenged me to make a bet, which I refused. She declared that if getting her brother to send me away was the last thing she accomplished in life, she would still make it happen. Ironically, she herself is known as a woman who does not tolerate interference from her own in-laws. From that point onwards, it became obvious that my husband's entire family wanted me out of the marriage. Their condition was simple. They wanted me to kneel before the same sister-in-law who had repeatedly tried to attack me and beg for forgiveness because my sister had fought with her. Even after apologizing, they insisted they would continue monitoring my behavior before deciding whether I deserved to remain in the family. I refused. My husband agreed with his family's position. Everything changed only after I contacted the vicar who officiated our wedding. The vicar and his wife spent almost 7 hours counseling both of us. During this conversation, they challenged my husband to think carefully about what his family was asking him to do. They reminded him that his other siblings also had spouses and children of their own. None of these marriages involved perfect husbands or perfect wives, yet nobody was demanding that those marriages be destroyed. They questioned why everyone seemed determined to drive only me away. After hearing everything, the vicar also warned my mother-in-law not to interfere in our marriage anymore. She had nothing to say in response, instead of accepting the advice. However, My husband's family completely turned against both of us. They gathered together and gave my husband an ultimatum. Either he should send me out of the house or they would no longer recognize him as their brother. At first, I thought they were only making empty threats. Then things became even worse. They began physically attacking both of us. Sometimes I find myself wondering whether our child will eventually suffer because of everything that has happened between our families. Today, my husband and I live on our own, separated from the rest of his family. Although we are still together, our relationship has never truly returned to what it once was. Even now, members of his family continue telling people who know me that I should pack my belongings and leave my husband's house, despite everything that has already happened. This is why I have decided to share my story. I genuinely need advice. What else can I do? Well, guys, there you have it. This is a story from our beautiful sister. She's seeking advice on what to do on this difficult marriage situation. If you have anything to tell her, any advice, please leave them down in the comment section. If you have a story of your own that you would like to share with us, please note that every story shared here is shared anonymously. Your identity is safe and secure. Please send us an email if you have a story to share and we'll be glad to talk to you. Well, see you on the next one, guys.